I like to work here. I like to walk. It wakes me up, Paris. Just a few blocks of walking can happen many things, and I like to observe these things and to enjoy them. The camera is an instrument that I use as an excuse to look at these things. So the camera is a way of awareness. Even when I was a kid, I remember the streets when I was that I walked in Mexico, going from my house to school. I can remember all the puddles in between and all the accidents in the sidewalk. I always like this, to look at this. I don't have a studio, so I don't have a specific place of production. I found that sometimes the studio is an isolated place, an artificial place, like a bubble, that I'm not so interested because I think it gets out of reality. What happens when you don't have a studio is that you have to be confronted with reality all the time. You have to be in the streets, you have to walk around, you have to be outdoors. I try to be intimate with everything I can. To be intimate, you have to open yourself and you have to trust what is around you. And then you generate new signs of intimacy with these things. And then all the other people can have that same relationship with the world. I don't have a technique. I have many different ways to work. So when I finish something, I need to invent something else in a different medium, in a different place. The Citroën is not just a car. It's a special car and charged with significance because it's a cultural object. But it's not just an icon because it's also a machine that has a function. And to remake it on its own logic, you are at the same time analyzing this icon that it becomes something active again. I mean, I did it with one assistant, cutting it together. We worked for a month in a garage. It was quite an intimate work. It was very nice. It was a lot of work. I extracted the center and put it back together. On one side and laterally, you see it like a normal car. When you walk around, you have the perspective distorted. Here I wrote something, medio de transporte hacia más allá del punto de fuga, which will read something like transport system beyond the vanishing point. And then also these are more like organic drawings, just loose. The real drawing was in the car itself, because you have to make the line very precise, and that took like a week. You can keep cutting it. You can do another cut, and another cut, and another cut, until infinite. You will never finish.
He had to come to the supermarket with me to help me carry stuff back. But of course, there he started playing with the food because he was bored about me reading all the labels and the ingredients. He realized what an ordered, perfect world the supermarket is. And he realized the minute you put it back and it's not its place, there's this terrible chaos that generates just from putting something that's not right. And you feel immediately something is wrong. So then he brought the potatoes with the notebooks, and then he put the cat food with the watermelons. It's actually all very banal with him. There's little mystery. It's all very basic. It's just this incredible curiosity about things that you take for granted that suddenly, he gets fascinated with.
What I like about games is that a game is a thing on its own. So you have a little world in this board or in this table designed to perfection, so you can play in a landscape, and when it is a good game, it's so passionate that you can really get into this world and just live in it. When you have a normal ping pong game, you have a net, which is a no space between two spaces. But instead of two people playing, you have four people playing in four tables. You open that space, so the net is open, and what you have there is a new space. And that is the space that I'm interested in the in-between space. Because it's a new space, I could do anything I wanted. I decided to make a pond. I will say it's just an arbitrary decision. But then if you want to connect that with the pond in Indian culture and related with the lotus flower and the beginning of the universe and the pond as the center of the universe, you can. One day I saw the Foucault pendulum. And as you know, is the way that was proved that the earth moves. Because you have this pendulum hanging from very high, which is constantly moving, because the earth is rotating. Then I decided, what happens if one of the balls in the billiard is a pendulum? And then also, instead of having a rectangular table, I decided to have an elliptical table or an oval table. So then we will play more closer to the laws of the universe. In billiards, because it's rectangular, you can calculate how the ball is going to bounce. But in this case, when the ball starts to touch this oval, it just starts to bounce around and then just get lost totally. Anyway, it's a totally different game. And it's more complex in many ways. It's also much more boring than a normal billiard game. But and also I didn't put any rules except the basic rules of hitting two balls with your own ball. And people play it. I play it sometimes. And the rules, they have to be invented. I try to use the tools that everyone can use. I don't want to be a specialist in a technique that is very difficult. I prefer to be a beginner. I like to learn how to fix cars, and then I did the Citroën. I mean, I'm not an expert in cars. Even I think sometimes when I do like ceramic, it's like a hobby for me. I think it's more like, well, yeah, I like ceramics, it's nice, I want to learn a little bit. It's exactly what you define a hobby. Normally when you do potteries, you are very much aware of this empty center space. In this case, I was not so interested in the center, but as a mass. For that reason, I needed a clay that was special. And this workshop used to be a brick factory before, but they have this machine to produce clay that I need very fast. So in one day you can do a whole amount of hours, almost like a worker doing a mechanical thing. And for me that was important. The thinking process is related with the body in many ways. To be moving in a train or to be looking at the ocean, to be working with my hands, with the clay, and very physical, all generates a stimulus in the brain and you are thinking. The connection between the brain and the breathing and the sweating and the time that you spend and how you slow down thinking or you accelerate thinking, you just generate a different aspects of thinking. So when I feel that it should be ready, it's a quite subjective thing, but it's just that the shape should represent what just happened before. The pot is a very complex instrument in human history. Can be related with Mexico if you want, but I think it can be related with Greece, it can be related with everybody in the world, because pottery is just part of our history. The division between work and everyday life is very strong. In Mexico, it's the same. And that space in between work and life is the space that is very hard to negotiate for everybody. Leisure time, or pleasure time, or knowledge time, or research time, or that space that is left over, because the important thing is to work and then to sustain your life or something. But then all the spaces in between are a bit lost. So every citizen has to fight for those spaces. When you live and you work in the same place, everything is part of the work. Every furniture is important, every little thing. Even the trash. The contradiction that I have is that when I say I don't want to produce things, but at the same time there is this necessity of producing signs of communication, a kind of mirror of what I'm doing. And maybe it's an obsession of building bridges of communication with other people.